let me tell you a little story about how I got a cabinet full of 1930s sewing patterns that had never been used. Picture this. It is Christmas Day, 2025. And I get a message on Instagram about how someone had found an entire cabinet full of DEADSTOCK New York sewing patterns. Shout out to Babs, you're the real one. Thank you for telling me about this. But that message did come with a warning that the patterns were not cheap. However, me being me, I did decide to click on that link. No, I do not advise clicking on links from strangers. Please don't do that. But in this one case, it came out all right. And after I picked my jaw up off of the floor, the next 48 hours were an absolute whirlwind, which involved me contacting my friend Judy Yates, who runs Vintage for me too, who is midway between me and the patterns. I asked her if she would be willing to go get said patterns and split them with me. She said, absolutely I would, after she also looked at the link. So we contacted the seller the day after Christmas, waited about an hour or two, and then Judy was on her way to go get the patterns. Which did involve a slight delay because by the time Judy drove up in Christmas traffic, her car decided to stall out at their house. She needed to have someone come jump her before she could drive back down home to Savannah. But then I woke up the next morning at the crack of dawn, got in my car, and was driving to Savannah, Georgia through Christmas traffic to see the patterns for the very first time. Oh my God!
And the gratefully.
I've had this one before. Look at that. Oh, what's that?
Oh, these
what's
are large
that?
sizes.
What are these? That's a bust 46. And what's Judy flipping through? Look at all those 38s. Okay, let's get all set up so we can actually go through the patterns. And then over the next 3 hours, Judy and I giddily went through all 4 drawers of this New York pattern cabinet, finding treasure after treasure. That's cute. And the happiest surprise of all is that they were all factory folded. Well, almost all of them.
Here's the first one I found that's damaged. Yep.
Listen, one.
Yeah, one.
One? If you're new here, we normally get them damaged. This is the rare thing. That is the normal. And while this was a fair amount of work, Judy and I had the absolutely best time. Because we both understand that these patterns are so rare that even sharing them with each other was a joy. Because no, there was not any fighting over any pattern, ever. Because friends over capitalism all day long. And now while I did speed up this footage quite a bit, if you would like to see the full, uncut version of the unboxing and the sorting with Judy and I, and all the oohs and ahs, you can check it out on my Patreon or on my YouTube channel memberships. I will be making the video live later this weekend. But now with all the sorting done, it was time to safely load her up into my car and drive back to Florida. And with all of them safe at home, it's time to go through them now. And so how I'm going to do this today is I'm going to be showing you one of each pattern that I have because yes, there are some with size runs. I'm not excited about that at all. And then I'll list all the patterns in the lower third as we go along. But enough of the pretenses. Let's just start now, shall we? With this little cutie patootie. This is New York 67. The one I currently have is a size 8. And there are 2 of them that are available, and they are going to be gifted away as a part of this video when you go comment on my Instagram, because it's very hard to do a YouTube giveaway because people can't DM me and it's very frustrating. So we're gonna be doing an Instagram giveaway of some of these patterns. But the interesting thing about this kid's sleep pattern is that this was found in the catalog that was from, we think, 34, 33, and the catalog in 39. So this pattern, the reason why you see just so many of them, if you do see patterns from this era, because this was made for so long. And let's face it, people be having kids. Next we have New York 110. Look at this beautiful nightgown. This is a bust size 32. This is also probably, again, I believe we found this one in the 33, 34 catalog that Judy has. But this one also was in my couple of New York pages that I scored off of eBay for $30. I did miss the catalogs that were along with that auction, and it did absolutely destroy me that I missed out on those. But I had the power of me, Vintage 4Me2, and Mrs. Depew Patterns, and even all of our money couldn't get those catalogs, so I don't feel too bad that I didn't get them. However, I did get the pages, and the thing with New York at that time, they didn't actually date their catalogs at all. So even if it would have had it on the pages, there's no, I don't actually know when this is from. So we believe my pattern pages are from sometime between 33 and 35. But I will say that most of these patterns are in those pages. Which I'm not gonna lie, I had a little squealy girl moment at midnight when that happened. And no, I don't have footage, because it was midnight. So yes, this is a lovely raised waist nightgown, and I do only have one of that one. Next, we have New York 115. It is a glorious blouse pattern. And listen, originally I was like, ooh, I definitely want this. I want this in my size. I need to remember that 34 to 50 is very challenging, not impossible. So while I do have my 1 per box rule, which if you're new here, yes, I do allow myself 1 pattern to keep for personal use out of these boxes, whereas the rest are available on my website, Backroom Finds, an hour after this video goes live. But yes, I adore this. This is my... I wanted this because I wanted the sleeve, and then I looked at the sleeve a little closer, and I realized I think I have other sleeves that are almost exactly the same. So just for the sheer size and volume of this sleeve moment here. Oh, I just noticed! Janet Gaynor style. Well, now I definitely need to find her in the pattern book. Oh my God. Oh, it's so good. Man, do I? Okay, we're gonna put her in the maybe pile. Maybe pile is where she will be going. And now next up is going to be a comically hilarious and a pattern that I actually already have on my website, New York 133. This is a kid's ski suit and helmet. And this one is a size 6 for this one. I currently have a size 10 on my website, but this is just so funny to me. I love the little like ski things and the helmet and how they colored in the parts that are the parts that you get the pattern for. And yes, if you have been noticing, a couple of these have this little symbol right here. That stands not for the National Rifle Association. Stands for the National Recovery Act, which is absolutely how I know that these are definitely mid-30s patterns, because this symbol did not get put on after the National Recovery Act had gone away. And now one of my favorite things about this entire pattern cabinet drawer is that the majority of patterns were bust 34 to 38. And in case you are wondering, that is not normal. Usually the ones that get left behind are the ones that are the bust 32s and sometimes 34s. This is because of a thing called survivor bias, which means that the patterns that got used the most are the ones we do not see, because patterns are paper, right? And there's only so many times they can be handled and mandled and pinned and cut before they completely fall apart. No, I'm not gonna throw a very expensive blouse pattern. And so because of that, what we usually see is a lack of the large plus sizes, which usually is denoted as 40 and up. I understand that this does not equate to what modern plus sizes are, but for patterns that are vintage, we usually classify anything a best 40 and up as a plus size pattern. I'm well aware that 40 is not plus size, but due to the size range that was available, which usually would top out between 48 and 52 inches on average, it's harder to find the larger sizes because those are the ones that got used and used and used and fell apart. But the nice thing about this is that the lady that owned this was a home ec teacher, and so by the 50s, they didn't want to sew things from the 30s anymore. And that means there's a whole bunch of size runs. Now, this one is not a size run. This is just a 1 pattern. This is New York 158 and a bust 38. It is truly stunning. I adore this giant yoke situation with gathers into the bodice and the sleeves. I'm not sure how it would wear if you're doing any type of this action, but I do enjoy how it looks. And next up we have another giveaway pattern. This is New York 162. It is a child's coat, and when I tell you they got made a lot, I mean they got made a lot. So not only do I have 2 size 8s, I have a 12 and a 14, all of which will be given away. And now it's time for some glorious coat action with New York 163. This one comes in 3 sizes. I have the 36, the 38, and the 40 of this adorable raglan sleeve coat. It has a slight crossover side button and a very large collar, which even in the 30s, they were a poppin'. Next we have a littler coat, New York 164, which is another little lovely child's coat. You can see this one is a little bit older because it's before they started to print the color, so it is unfortunately a little hard to see what's happening here. But by the description, we can tell it's a child's double-breasted coat. And then when you dive on the inside, this is one that is so old that you will notice something might be missing, you think, right? Where are those instructions? They certainly aren't on the back. That's not what that is. There is a how to cut, which tells you you have crossed over into the envelope era. Dun dun dun! Which means that all the instructions are now printed on the inside of your envelope. So if you go to make this, you will have to pop this envelope along the seams, top and bottom, to be able to read your instructions. Next up, we have a beautiful bust 42. It is New York 169. This is another raglan sleeve moment, but it's the kind that's like the raglan cap or the raglan long sleeve. So you have both options along with a slimline skirt, and it's got a gentle cowl neck up here to give you some, not choking effect for your clothing. There's only a couple pieces, but just remember, just because there's only a few pieces doesn't mean it's not difficult to put together. Just gonna remind you of that. The fewer the pieces sometimes, the harder it is to put together. But this one, are you missing your instructions? What is happening here? Are we that old? Oh my God, we are! They are folded deep down into the packet because at this point they would have laid out all the tissues flat and then they would have folded everything together all at once, including the instructions. How do I know this? You can see right here as I open it up, you see this right here. See how that's a little bit darker, a little bit more noticeable, because when you go to gently open the packet, you can see right there, that's where they all are. And no, I'm not going to unfactory fold this to pull the instructions out of every single one of these. That would be silly. Just so you know that sometimes when you open these, you might not see the instructions by themselves, but I promise you they are there. Unless the listing says they're not there because someone took it out, which is also possible. But you will always be able to tell by my listings because I make sure to note everything for you. But just for clarity, this one went home with Tina. Next up, we have New York 170, which is another beautiful slimline dress. But this time we have cute little buttons along the side of the skirt. We have a little insect collar scarf moment happening in the blouse. And you can tell that it is actually a sleeveless dress with a little bolero jacket to go over top. Now this one I do have 2 sizes in. I have the 32 and the 36. And next we have a truly beautiful surplice waist dress. This is New York 173. And you can see the surplice bodice here, with little buttons at the shoulders, a very deep surplice back, as well as this distinctive hip crossover yoke into a side skirt situation happening. And yes, I do actually have 2 sizes of it, a bust 36 and a bust 40. Now, if there's one thing you should know about the 1930s is that they loved big, frothy things. They loved frothy sleeves. They loved big, frothy, capes and numbers and bows that kind of look like the little bow tie pasta that we buy nowadays. Because look at New York 186. I mean, come on. Like that would legitimately be almost to your shoulders and I love it. It's so amazing. It also does come with the little bolero jacket. And you can see not quite as distinctive a back moment here, but there is still a little back flap facing situation with a long slim skirt and the little droop off the shoulders. It's not actually a cap sleeve. It's just like a slightly extended sleeve. It's slightly extended shoulder. That's what I meant. And now I will say this about this lot. There are going to be quite a few shirtwaist dresses because a shirtwaist was still very popular in the 1930s. However, it's not the shirtwaist that you've seen me wear, which is more of a fit and flare, which is more of a 1950s style. So these are all going to be shirtwaists that have a much slimmer skirt and usually have a back vent for ease of movement and doing this, which is the case with New York 193. You can see here, it's a bust 38. There's also a bust 32. And it does have that little back vent along with a yoke, one pocket, and two very small pleated tucks. And you can either do a short sleeve or a long sleeve. But I think the most glorious thing about this entire cabinet is that there were true plus sizes, which means bust 44 and up. Because listen, I know that we classify 40s and 42s, but no, I have some that go all the way up to a bust 52. Now, it's not this next pattern, but they do exist. But this one is a bust 46. New York 195 is this surplice bodice with a little like drape shoulder accent here, a matching drapey flounce on the bottom of the short sleeve, and a slimline skirt. It's just so cool. Getting to find these older patterns that are actually still available and useful for modern day sizes is it just makes my heart so happy to know that they're out there still somewhere and they still can be found and used, and I'm so excited. Next up, we have New York 200, which is a dress and jacket combo, but it has this raised section at the top of the skirt that comes to a point just below a button placket. So again, it is still a sort of a shirtwaist dress, but it's definitely a fancier shirtwaist dress. And this one I have in a 34 and a 36. Yeah, sometimes it makes me so happy to be able to say, not only do I have a bust 42 of the next one, I have a bust 48 of the next one, but I also have a bust 52 of the next pattern. This is New York 205. And I have thoughts with the way they styled the more stout or plus size garments in previous years because they get pretty frumpy pretty fast. However, the ones that we found were not as bad as some that I've seen, but you can definitely notice a difference, right? Because while we still have the same slimline skirt, you notice they're kind of over exaggerating what's up here with a very large double collar. And I do believe these button on, and while it does have the double collar, it is attached. So once you pick that, it would stay with it. Unless you choose to make it detachable, then more power to you. You could change it up as you want. But even being able to find these in factory folded conditions, because this pattern, this bust 52, despite being a bit toasty on the backside, but that's because it was at the very back of the cabinet, and the acid in the wood and the stain is different than the acid of the pattern, so it leached and turned it a different color. You can see here, pattern is perfectly fine. And this is one, again, where the instructions are inside the packet. This is just one of those moments that I don't get to have very often, and when I do, I relish it, and I revel in it, and I'm giddy about it for days! All of my friends on the way home got voice notes about these patterns, every single one of them, including Tina. Next up, we have a single pattern, but she is a lovely pattern. New York 207. This is a bust 40. And this is an interesting one because the blouse itself is technically one piece, but what has happened is they've made the yoke much larger than usual, and they've widened where the bust is so they can gather it down to give you the ease that you need, but still making it very cute. And look at the little flouncy sleeve version. And it has my favorite gathered front skirt. Just the front center. That's it. It's okay. I look at some of the 1990s patterns that I absolutely wore on my body and think, what were we doing here? It happens in every era. Now we have New York 223, which is a button-on jacket to a one-piece dress. I love this idea. I'm not gonna lie when I say that I kind of want to take my favorite sewing pattern and I want to do it to a 1950s version. But we'll get there eventually. But this is kind of what I want to do, because you can see here it has the same shoulder yokes and then two buttons here. Now, they only utilize one to hold the jacket on, but if I were to do it, I would probably make it a cape with the two buttons and have it follow that edge. But it does have the same slimline skirt. It actually has a slight point down in through here, but it has a matching little sweetheart neckline, so it's kind of a mirror effect there. Oh, so cute. Don't take a shot every time I say cute, because you're gonna get drunk. Next up we have New York 227, and this one is a bust 42. And unfortunately, whoever did the line drawings of this didn't really do a great job of showing you what the dress looked like from the front. So you can see that we have a tucked shoulder here, and you can, on her like 45-degree angle here, you can see that the skirt panel is one section up through here with little jags in through here right at the hips. So that would be interesting if you wanted to make it like a darker contrast on the outside with a lighter on the inside, or vice versa. It would definitely add some distinct interest to the skirt. It also comes with the bolero pattern. And now we have one of the creme de la creme patterns that we found. It is absolutely stunning. It is New York 238. It looks like a standard shirtwaist dress from the front, right? Like nothing terribly exciting. But look at that back. Like the deep V of that back is just magnificent. I love this pattern. Now this is a teen size, so this is a bust 35 actually, because it's the size 17, which means that your trunk measurement is going to be a little shorter than it would be in a standard misses or women's size pattern. And this is one that is old enough that you will have to cut the top to get your instructions. Next up we have New York 243, which is a one-piece dress with little button front accents at the front and a cape pattern. That's right. It comes with a little cape pattern right here, which you can opt to make a half-size cape and button it on to your dress. And this one I have in a 36 and a 34. Next we have another giveaway pattern. It is New York 250. This one is a kid's sleeper. How do I know it's a kid's sleeper? Because absolutely, it's got the butt buttons for those emergency late night bathroom runs. Next up comes New York 259. And this one is actually a blouse, skirt, and shorts combo in either teen sizes of a 35 or a 33. But what I love about this is that it has these really billowy sleeve options that are attached via a yoke here. And what that does is it actually allows you, if you wanted to move around a lot, which most of us do, without the restriction of a full set-in sleeve that like kind of latches you into a certain range of motion before your entire clothing moves with you. And while these are a black and white and a color front, they are both the kind with the instructions printed on the inside of the envelope. And now we have one of two of the 300s. That's it. New York 327 is a lovely little boy's shirt in a size 8. It's a button-down front, a large kind of, not quite a dagger collar, but close, with a little front pocket. And you can either make it with the straight across bottom, or you can make it with the rounded bottom, and as well as short sleeve or long sleeve. And now we have one of my smallest adult size patterns. It's one of the juniors patterns, New York 347, which is a size 11, which equals a bust 29. It is a blouse with a peplum and a slimline skirt with one of the options of sleeves having a little like vent or pleat. It's kind of hard to tell from this drawing. It might just be a pleat. You know, I truly can't tell because there's a little opening there. It could just be a two-piece sleeve. Either way, really cute. Do enjoy it, but there's only this one. Next, we have New York 501. While it is technically a men's shirt, let's be very real here, a neck of a 14.5, that usually chalks it down into the teen boy range. Because the chest for this pattern is a 36. So this is definitely the boys' version. But what I find interesting about this shirt in particular is look at how long the tails are. So those tail lengths are not something that you usually see in a men's pattern of current eras. It also has the detachable collar that you could have starched by itself and not starched the shirt nearly as much. Next up we have another lovely yoked dress, which is New York 503. This time in a bust 40. And you can see it sort of has that kind of similar line, except this time instead of the yoke being flat, this time the yoke is what is gathered, and the bodice has, while there is definitely still some ease in there, it is much more straight across the bust, and the sleeves that are flutter sleeves are given the volume for movement. Next up we have New York 521, which is a child's two-piece dress with land ho pilgrim level collar. Dang, man, that is a heck of a collar because it actually would go to her shoulders. Next up is New York 524. They call it a two-piece dress. So I can sort of see it. You can see here in the green a little bit better where that line from the top piece is actually a cut and then the skirt is the full length. However, if you look at the line drawing right next to her, you could just make the longer version and have it be a one-piece dress in our modern era because you don't really need it to go all that long. It could just stop there. But the most interesting thing I do think about this is all the darts on the front and the back of this bodice. You can see here, they're all sort of aligned. They go through the sleeve, they go through the back and the back of the sleeve. So it really gives a very interesting detail line to what would normally be a pretty standard blouse. Next up we have New York 525. In a bust, 50. This is a one-piece dress that has another surplice top, and it does have those little side buttons down there that are actually faux, although if you wanted to, you could easily make them real. The thing I find interesting about this is this giant drapey collar that has tucks at the back center. It's very intriguing to me. And while this is my size, the 48s and 50s are pretty close to my size, this is not one that is for me that I will be keeping. So that means one of you gets to take it. And we're not done with our plus sizes in this moment because the next one is New York 527 with a bust 42 and a bust 48. Now this has another one of those draped collars, but it's set into this panel at the front of the dress with some truly spectacular sleeves. It's so good. And now we have another coat pattern in New York 544. This one is a bust 36. This one, however, the interesting thing is that there technically aren't any buttons to close it. There's no buttons, there's no belt. You just sort of let it hang open, kind of like a swing coat in the 50s. And it does come in two lengths with a rolled collar into a reverse, which is what this pointed section is here. And now one of the patterns that stopped us dead in our tracks, New York 549. It's a little hard to see because of the brown. This bust 36 pattern though is a one-piece dress and it has a yoke that goes into a sleeve that goes into a front end / gathered back sleeve with a gentle flare down at the bottom. This is the sleeve pattern, y'all. Sorry, the sleeve and yoke pattern, my bad, because it's all one thing. Look at that nonsense. I love it. And then you put this entire sleeve inset into that. I would request, if you do buy this and make this, please, please, please send me a photo. Send me a photo, tag me on Instagram, email me at likethenorthcountry@gmail.com when you're done. I want to see how this is made. But it is a bust 36, so it's not something that I'm going to take the time to size up, but I do want to know how this turns out. Next, we have another little lovely one-piece dress in New York 562. I adore this whatever epaulette / collar situation is happening up here, because they don't ever do really a top down. They just give you this front and back view. You can tell here that it is a raglan sleeve. So at least there's that. It's not as big of a fit issue. But I just need to know. It's just so funny. It calls it a tab trimming. But this one I do have in a bust 34 and a bust 38. And now one that, honest to God, made Judy and I stop in our tracks. We were like, what? What? This is New York 567. Look at this and tell me what you think is different than usual. If you guessed labeling it a dance set, you are correct. While these are usually labeled bra and panties, lingerie set, this is the first time that Judy and I had seen it called a dance set. And honestly, all of our catalogs didn't label it that either. And one thing I will say about this pattern in particular, you will see the tissue, you will see the envelope, you will go to look on the inside of the envelope, and there are no instructions. Why are there no instructions? Because it's all right there. Everything that you need is on the back of this envelope. Well, Everything that a person in the 1930s to make this would need is on the back of this envelope. I do advise, if you want to take any of these on that have slimmer instructions, that you do find yourself a period reference. You could probably even use my Shortcuts to Sewing book that I have available on my website, because it is from the early 40s. It's from 41. So you could use that, because that would be close enough to get you all the little extra bits that maybe these patterns are leaving out. It's got all the pieces. Oh, and if you were here for frothy goodness, let me tell you, you are not going to be disappointed in the next one. The next one is New York 569. Look at how floofy it is! It's so good. Like, you've got at least, so there's 1, 2 ruffles along the front center here, along a diagonal. You've got a ruffle cap sleeve, it looks like, on the underneath. And if maybe all the ruffles aren't for you, never fear. You can just do it with a whole crap ton of these bows. It's so cute. And it's got a deep V back too. We love to see that. And next up we have New York 588, which is a shirtwaist dress with one of the most intriguing pockets I've seen. So while there is a lot happening on the front of here, you've got a very large collar with, I believe, an applied band all the way around the front and the back. You have short sleeves. You have an applied band at the front under the button placket with arguably a lot of buttons. But then you have this pocket. And at first I was like, how do they make that pocket? Is it a functional pocket? Is it just decoration? So I turned it over. I was like, oh, what's happening here? So what's happening is you have to have one pocket that is the right size and one pocket piece that is 3 times the size, and then you're going to fold it down into the tucks and sew it together to be one patch pocket piece. I love that idea. It's so silly, I now want to make one just for the gigs. And you can see here it's that top stitch kind, and then they put a button accent. It's so funny. It is a bust 32, so it's a little on the smaller side, but it's just too good. But what is not on the smaller size is New York 597. This one is another shirtwaist dress with a very large collar, pockets with a little triangular flap over on the top. And so there's not a whole lot to this one, but this is just like a good staple 1930s dress, and it's a bust 40, so we love to see it. Next, we have one of my favorites. I think it's the coloring plus a little bit of just how silly this dress is. New York 601. Like, come on. Come on. It's so funny. I adore this. It's a yoked top into a sleeve for this dress, which then goes into a vented, like a double tuck vent along the bust, so that way you don't have to do darts or anything like that, with, I'm pretty sure, a fake pocket. I'm pretty sure that's not real. Hold, please. Yeah, no. This is labeled as trimming piece, which I guess if you technically wanted to like try and hide a little pocket for like a chapstick or something, you could. But I do love the contrast they did here, and you can see how they chose to do a color block, which I do think is really nice. And I do have this in a bust 32 and a bust 38. Oh, and speaking of things that have interesting details, New York 638. This one is a very high one-piece dress with what looks like, from the outset, a normal sleeve, right? That looks pretty usual, like a long sleeve, no big deal. Until you turn it over and realize one of those is a 2-piece sleeve. So you have the upper part and the lower part of the draped sleeve, which is this one. So you're actually giving yourself a little bit of extra fabric down here on the bottom to create that little bit of extra oomph at the bottom of the sleeve. And this one comes in a 36 and a 38. And then I will say the only proper romper, culotte dress, jumpsuit thing that we found in this entire lot is this next pattern. New York 654. This is a child size culotte dress that it's just so cute, y'all. It's got the button top, it's got the very large flowy pants, sleeveless or sleeved version. I think it would look lovely. If it was a little bit bigger, I probably would have just made it for my kid so she could go flounce around in it, but this one will find a new home. And if you were looking for just little touches of the previous periods in history in a more 1930s pattern, this is definitely your pattern. New York 667. I'm just saying it's giving very Edwardian light. That's all I'm saying. With the high collar, the puff sleeve, you even have a touch bit of gathering at the neck and along the skirt to kind of give a vague idea of the trumpet skirt and the pigeon blouse, but in a 1930s line. And if you didn't like that one, you can also make it in this other style with a collar and much more of a shirtwaist, what I would think of more of a 30s line. This one is a bust 34. There are two things that I love about this next pattern. Number one, scallops. Easy, love me a good scallop. Number two, up until I found this lot, I had seen one Woman's World pattern. And I'm talking about a standalone brand that used to exist called Woman's World. Well, this was a first for me because I have never seen a Woman's World New York pattern until this pattern. New York 669. Look at the details on this. You have got shirred shoulders along the top, a surplice high neck blouse, long sleeves with very large scallops, and a fully scalloped skirt, which they do show on the back view that there is a way to just do the straight across one should you not like the scallops, but I love the scallops, and I also love that it's a bust 38. Next up we have New York 675, which is a slit pattern in a bust 42. I adore this. It's a good princess line slip. You can make it in a very deep length with a deep back, or you can make the straight line, the sweetheart, or the deep V-neck with much more of a sleeve, right, to hold it at your shoulders. And yes, I will not be making any further comment, but that detail is actually on the pattern for you to trim or embroider to your heart's content. Just that, just that. All right, next up we have New York 684 in a bust 38. This is another good one-piece dress. This has a much more billowy top, a little bit of gather here at the shoulder, a very large, almost like a banded sleeve, not even really a cap sleeve, with a slimline skirt, with your standard issued boob pockets. Next up, we have a blouse and skirt pattern in New York 684. This is a bust 34. It does have that same similar high neckline blouse, or you can also make it with a collared version, and a slimline skirt with a little kick pleat right at the front for movement. And now while we did skip one that's extra special and you're gonna have to wait to the very end to see her, we will keep going in the 600s with New York 691. This is a cute little girl's two-piece dress with a pleated front and a lot of buttons. And you can either do a Peter Pan or a stand collar in this size 8. And here again we see an interesting dress with the same type of yoke over the shoulder into gathers that we saw in an earlier pattern, but this time it's New York 695. This one is a full button front, and you once again have the flutter sleeve, but I feel like it's a little bit lower, or it's the same pattern, and I just didn't notice that until now. I wonder if they renumbered this.
No.
But this one's a bust 34. And in the realms of interesting yokes, we have New York 696 with, it's intriguing because the yoke itself usually is something that goes from the shoulder to the midsection or something thereabouts. We've seen the ones recently that go over the shoulder, literally the last pattern. This one, however, is more like an almond that stops before a set-in sleeve. I feel like that would suck to install, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it could be heckin' cute. With this one I have in a 34 and a 38. I do enjoy the other lines. I also really like this sleeve, like a lot of poof, a lot of action, flowy goodness. Do enjoy that. And the next one I have lovingly deemed the tuxedo dress. New York 700. Why? That's why. Tell me that doesn't look like a little tuxedo moment with the very cute stand collar, the small buttons, and then the very large lapels. I feel like it's a tuxedo dress just by the way they colored it. It is a full button front though, and you can also do the larger collar as well. This one is a bust 34. interesting yokes. Take, I don't know how many at this point. New York 701. Look at this, because this is another yoke into a sleeve, but this is a yoke into a almost banded sleeve style. But it's not banded because it's not a set-in sleeve. It's very interesting. And it has a very high neckline, lots of small buttons, and then a slimline skirt with 2 pockets. Now the next one I'll let you know right now, I pulled for my child, because New York 703, look at how cute it is. This is a princess line jacket with a Peter Pan collar and very full, it looks like they're tucked sleeves, but I really think my child would love this, so I did get this one for her personal stash. Oh, and I am sorry to say that you will not see that be made on the channel, because the stuff that I make for my kid is just between her and I. It's not stuff that I make for the vast internet. Next up is a child's pattern that is not for mine, so it will be available. New York 704. Cute little shirtwaist dress with a nice little collar, a little kick pleat right there at the front. I just think it's adorable. I also kind of wish this fabric still existed right now, because I think they're tiny. What are those? Like, I don't know. To me, they kind of look like green donuts, but I feel like that's probably wrong. But this is a size 10, so it is a little bit for your larger children, but a size 10 at that time for children was a chest of 28. And the next one is also a child's pattern. This is a New York Woman's World child. Did I mention I hadn't really seen these until this box, and then suddenly I have like this whole slew of them, which I've never really seen before, so it's very exciting. This is a 2-piece dress with a little jacket, a puff sleeve, and another gently pleated skirt with like all the kick pleats being at the bottom, so the pleat is sewn along the top and then a little extra at the bottom. Really adorable. It also has a button-up shirt, which again technically makes it like a child's suit situation, because they call it a blouse, skirt, and jacket. And that one's a size 12, which is a chest of 30. Now, while I'm not usually in the vein of naming dress patterns outside of what would be on the envelope, both Judy and I agree that this next pattern is what we deemed the dancing dress. New York 709 is another Woman's World New York pattern, but look at how flowy that is and the motion that they show her on the front. Now, is that the type of skirt you're actually going to get out of this? Maybe. There is, you can see there is extra flare that has been added to the side, so there will be more than your average 30s line, but will it give you quite that motion? Artistic license probably says no, but either way, this is what we called the dancing dress when we were talking about it, and mine is a bust 40. Also, I did want to remind you that while the patterns that you see here are technically only half of the patterns, because I did split it with Judy from Vintage For Me too, her patterns have been available, I believe, since 12 hours after we found it, because we were both so excited, but I knew I wanted to save mine for this video. But if you do want to check out and see what she has available, you can go to vintageforme2.com to see what she has left. And next up is just for showcasing, because this is also, this I think is my pattern. I think this is the one I'm gonna let myself keep. New York 711. And no, not because of the convenience store. This is another Woman's World New York. You can see she got a little muddy with her printing in through here, but I love this shirtwaist into a slim, slightly flared skirt. But the reason I want it is right here. You can see how that yoke goes over the shoulder and into this kind of funky bell sleeve with little pleats at the bottom, as opposed to a hard cuff. I want to see how this makes up, because this is a very cool sleeve. And it's a bust 46, so it's not even that hard to size up to my size. Next up, we have New York 715 in a bust 40, which, as they describe it on the back, is a basque dress. You can see here the fully buttoned front, the very nice little peplum, and the slimline skirt with a scaled down leg of mutton sleeve where you have a gather here at the top that tapers into a thinner bottom portion of the sleeve. And it has the cute little point right there for your wrist. Would be a very lovely addition to anyone's collection. Next up, we have New York 718 in a bust 44. And what makes this one interesting is that while you see here the draped front panel, which could potentially look like a jacket that you take off. And it could be made worse by the fact that on the back they call it a bolero front. This is not a bolero. Nope, no, not even a little. This is all one piece. These are all attached. This is not something that you can remove and take off. I mean, you could make something to make it go on and off, but it's just very interesting, and the naming convention was even wilder. This is why you have to take all those naming conventions from the vintage ones with a grain of salt, because sometimes they just like to slap things together and nary a care that it actually meant something. And if you have ever, like me, had a moment where you're like, gee, I would really love a sleeve that kind of looked like a cumulonimbus cloud, this is your pattern. New York 721 in a bust 34. And the reason I say that is, it's very apparent, it's right there. Look at that silly old sleeve. I love it. You can either make this dress in this sort of like hard line front with 2 tucks at the raised waist, or if you look down here, this is also an option as well, where you can change it into a sweetheart with a slightly gathered yoke. Personally, this is probably the one I would make, but you do you. It is a bust 34, and I'm not keeping it because I'm not sizing up from that. But it literally is just a shirred sleeve. So if you wanted to make that, you could just take a regular sleeve, elongate it, and then shirr it up to the length that you need it. And now we have another sweet, adorable shirtwaist dress, New York 723. Which you can see here can either be done with a very slight cutaway, non-collared dress top, or you can put the Peter Pan collar up top. That's available in a bust 34 and a 36. And here is the other one that makes me think tuxedo, because it just does. New York 726 in a bust 36. You can either do in just a regular button up with a really cool exterior shirred, so like an exterior gathered top of the sleeve, whereas usually we try and hide those gathering stitches into the set of the sleeve. These are all visible, so they're on top. You could do them in a contrast thread. It would be very, very pretty. Or you can make the tuxedo blouse. And now we have what looks to be an unassuming one-piece dress and bolero jacket. However, New York 728 has a little surprise on the back for you. You can see right here just how low of a back you can make that as an option. Because you can see here, the princess lines go up through here, a little slit neckline, the really nice little bolero jacket. You could also make it with a little flutter sleeve there on the side, with the option to make it a very deep back. So you can either have the dress with a regular back or the low cut version. And then sometimes you do get lucky enough to find the girls and misses patterns in the same run. That's the case for New York 732. Because not only do I have the child size of 8 and 12, because technically that would still be in the child's run, it also comes in the bust 34, which is where we get to the misses run, where you have the more standard neck to waist ratio and all the regular pattern measurements for a misses pattern. So you can see here, it's a blouse and a skirt. You can either do a puff sleeve and a Peter Pan collar, or the long sleeve version as well. So it's really cool that if you wanted to do like a family run, these are the ones that you would be leaning toward to be able to make that happen. Now we have New York 737 in a bust 44. This is stunning. It is a one-piece dress. It has a slightly curved raised waist. It has a puff sleeve, and it has a single-breasted princess line coat, which, while to me this does have red and goat feel, it's not what the envelope calls it. It just calls it a princess line coat. So, guess you could wear it whatever, although why the heck is it slit so high? Either way, that's neither here nor there, but it is a bust 44. Next up we have New York 739 in a bust 38. And you might be wondering yourself, gee, you know, sometimes having a scarf is just a little too hard, too cumbersome, and then if I lay it down, it gets misplaced and I can never find it again. This dress has you covered because the scarf is attached. This bust 38 one-piece dress literally has an attached scarf around the neckline, which at first I was like, oh, it's probably removable, all of this. No, attached one-piece scarf. So no, this literally is all one piece. I love it. It's so silly. But at the same time, it's kind of interesting. So if you did it with a lightweight enough fabric, I think it could read really interesting. Or it could be the bulkiest thing known to man. Unknown. Next up, we have another lovely shirtwaist in New York 740. This one has an elbow length puff sleeve or a long sleeve with a slight bit of gathering at the top, but that's just a standard amount of gathering for the 1930s. And it does have the 3 buttons along the center and that type of notched neckline, or you can just forego the reverse part as well. And this one comes in a 32 or a 36. Now we have New York 742 in a bust 38, which is a button front wrap dress. So you can see the double-breasted look here, but I'm pretty sure it's only these 2 exterior buttons that actually close the dress. Or you can also make this option as well, where there's no buttons on the front and it ties at the waist with this attached tie right here. And there is the option to button close this panel up at the neck. Next up, we have New York 743, which at first glance you might go, oh yes, another coat and dress combo. No, friends. This is a one-piece dress. So this is designed to be all one piece. There is not a blouse underneath here. This is a little vest tee, and it is a very deep V with the kick pleat to match the fabric at the top, which is why you may think it's a coat, and it is not. But I do love this because I have it in a 38 and a bust 44. And now we have a slightly more intriguing shirtwaist dress in New York 748, which not only has the standard 3-button closure front along the bodice, but you can also see in this second view here that there is a button side panel as well. Is this how I would install it nowadays? No, absolutely not. I would just put a zipper in. However, if you wanted a bit more of the vintage flair, you could just go ahead and add that right in because it is a bust 36 and 38. And then sometimes you have to stop and go, who was helping you get dressed? Truly, in the 30s. Because we have New York 750, which fully understand it looks like one of like the creeper eyes section here on the front of this dress, but made out of pocket flaps. Fully button back. Full button back that apparently someone decided to color code with self-cover buttons along the entire back of the dress. I have no idea. I like the tucks of the shoulders though. I like the collar. I like the whole dress, but I'm just like, you do absolutely have to have someone help you into this thing. It is a bust 36. Next up is New York 751, which is a fully button front one-piece dress with a yoke that curves down into the front panel and runs the length of the skirt. This could be a very interesting color block moment because you also have little pockets along here that you could spice up with different colors. I do enjoy this pattern. I have it in a 32 and a 36. You could also make it a little Western, I guess, if you wanted to. Now we have New York 752, because yes, as you can tell, there's a lot of 700s in here. This is a 2-piece dress with the top having this little curved peplum with a heck ton of top stitching, not gonna lie. But you can see there's a lot of stitching through here that they're going to instruct you to do at some point. But it does have that nice little gorge skirt as well as short or long sleeves. And these are just your standard sleeves. There's very little puff here at the top in case that is not a thing you like. Now we have New York 755, which is a beautiful princess line dress with a almost like a leg of mutton puff sleeve and then a regular leg of mutton sleeve. It does showcase these little cuffs and a collar to match and so many buttons. So just be prepared. It is a bust 34 and a 36 that will be available. And speaking of things with a lot of tiny buttons but are really truly fabulous, New York 757 in a bust 36. Look at the drape on that skirt. This peplum is also a tie-on peplum. You can add it there with all the teeny tiny buttons with a little stand collar. And I think it's a little ruffle at the top as well. Let me see. Standing collar, no. So this ruffle right here is actually something that you would add on in trim a little while after. But I just love the look of this one. And this one is a bust 36. And now, sailor ahoy! I give you New York 758. Look at the collar. Look at that collar. It's so good. I love an oversized sailor collar. I truly do. I do actually need to make myself a dress with one of those because, come on, too good. But this one is a bust 32. So it is one of the smallest ones that I have. But I do just like everything about this. And you can tell this envelope in particular, I think just got a little bit more wear and tear than some of the others. But the nice thing is the pattern, oh, this one might actually be from 39 because there are the instructions and here's the pattern. But you can see here, pattern's perfectly fine. Instructions, perfectly fine. Don't judge an envelope by its cover. I know it's supposed to be book, but this is what we have. Now we have New York 760, which is a princess line dress or smock. In a bust 36, it has the single button down the front. And the interesting is you can do this little contrast pocket through here if you really want. And it does come in short sleeve or long sleeve. And technically, the short one is a smock. But you do you. You can either do midi and you can also do full length. You could make a full length house coat out of this. It'd be spectacular. And now we have New York 762 in a bust 36. This dress has the raised waistline with the front panel all in one. And then it has these lovely gathers up through here into a shawl collar, or you can do collarless. But I do love how neither of these you can actually see the center because one of them has a giant bow and the other one has a floof, a flower, an unknown thing in the middle. So it's very cute, but you can do the puff sleeve or you can do the more leg of mutton style. Speaking of crazy bodices, we've got another one. New York 765 is this beautiful shirred front bodice with or without a V-neck. So this is still shirred underneath here with 3 bows applied on top. And you can do a short sleeve or a long sleeve. And this one is, while it just says 36 up here, that is the bust 36. Because at this time, if it said 36, that wasn't like some magical different size. Like it really just is a bust 36. It's not like in the 70s where a size 40 is actually a bust 44 or 45 or 47, you know, like just assigning things randomly. They still did just kind of go along a way of which my brain can compute. Now, New York 766, at first glance, looks like a standard shirtwaist dress, right? And it almost looks like one from like the mid 40s, which I do believe this pattern is probably from 39 or 40. So like this is one of the oldest ones in the box. The fact that this is the newest pattern in here is wild to me. But what is very interesting to me is that the way they did the gathers on this skirt. This skirt is, again, not meant to hide the gathering stitches. These gathering stitches are supposed to be visible. You can see here on the line drawing on the back, that is a visible gathering stitch. So that is not something that you're gonna put in and then take out. This is something that you put in and leave in. And this is available in a bust 34 and 36. Next up, we have the most utilitarian pattern I think we've had so far. This is New York 768. It is a redingote ensemble, which means that not only do you get this middle dress here, just as the plain dress by itself, if you want to just make that, you also get the option to make the bolero and separately attached skirt. So the bolero is one piece, the skirt is a whole other piece. And all these other line drawings on here are for where you show them wearing the exterior skirt, no bolero jacket, and the dress with just the bolero jacket. So this is more of a full ensemble pattern, which is why that is very, very cool. I do love those. Now we have New York 772, which, if it was a little bigger, I would absolutely say I'd be keeping this one. However, going to be strong, because I have it in a bust 38 and 40, and look at this waist. I do truly love the little pointed waist with the little gathers, the very deep V, the vesty underneath for modesty, which you don't have to make. It's fine, it's 2025. And then the puff sleeve, but it also comes with this option to have this very large cowl neck as well. So good. Editing Stephanie just popping in here real quick, just to kind of give y'all a heads up that these patterns in particular are more of what we think of as collector's items, because most of these are honestly 90 years old. So, while I will never begrudge anyone using them, I intend on using mine. But just know that the prices are going to reflect the fact that these are, one, way more rare, because I think before this, the only time I've ever seen a factory folded 30s pattern was exactly one time. I've been doing this for the better part of 15 years. So just know that the prices are going to be a little bit higher than what you would normally see on my website. But just know that this is an outlier, and I will always do my best to bring you the best possible vintage patterns at affordable prices. Also, sorry for the air conditioning unit. It's actually going to be like 29 degrees in Florida tonight, so it's kind of freaking out using the heater. Okay, back to previous me. Now we have New York 774 and a bust 32. I know we can't win all of them with the larger sizes, but occasionally this one was worth it. Look at how cute this is. So this has a little center front panel with a slit in it and a Peter Pan neck, or you could go without the Peter Pan collar as well. And you can see in this view that this is a one panel along the side. So it's not a princess seam, because princess seams are designed to go up and over to allow for the curve. This actually cuts in and comes up straight. It's a very interesting construction. Again, with the tiny boob pockets, what are we storing in there? Enlighten me. Please tell me in the comments what you think that pocket is for. Wrong answers only. Next up is New York 776 in a bust 34. This one is a lovely shirtwaist dress with little pin tucks along the front and a nice little bolero jacket with a long sleeve. And now this is one of the patterns that I have had at least once before in my shop. I don't think I have it right now, although I will have it after this video launches. New York 778. This one is interesting because it's actually, the back panel comes slightly over the shoulder and the gathers run in just shy of the top shoulder seam, like where a top shoulder seam usually would be. This is a bust 42, and you can tell it's got a lot of billowy factor. It's very like Katharine Hepburn, large shoulders number here, with a slimline, slightly flared skirt. Now we have another Weirdo McYoketown in New York 1224. Because not only do you have the option to do this, the same like over the shoulder yoke with, this time it looks like actually pleats along the top, but you can also do the banded version with a button closing shoulder. Say that 3 times fast. I do really enjoy this one. It is, sadly though, a bust 34, so not even close for me to try and size this thing up, but I do enjoy the look of it. Now we have New York 1226, which is a bust 50. That's right. Don't adjust your dials, dear viewer. That is correct. There are still more bust 50s in here. And actually, there's 2 more size runs where they get very large sizes. I love this box so much. Box, pattern cabinet, same thing. This is a shirtwaist dress with a very large shawl attachment that goes all the way down to the bottom of the buttons here. Personally for me, this wouldn't be my style, but I do enjoy the look as it is. And also, like, if you made that cowl be like a really fun color, it could be a good time. Oh, whoops, I forgot it's also available in a bust 36. And listen, I do love a good what is this pattern cover thinking moment. And this one in particular for New York 1275 is telling me that this lady just said something and this one's desperately holding her tongue. She is like, oh, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not today, Satan. That's what that look is for. And so this one also has that very interesting darting detail, except this time, instead of it stopping along the top like one of the previous versions, this one actually goes all the way past the bust, especially in the front. You also get the very large pussy bow at the neck. And the nice part is, I don't just have the 38. I have the 32 and the 34 as well. Now we have New York 1277 in a bust 40 and a bust 46.
Wrong.
Lies 48, close enough. I appreciate the black and white cover for the simplicity of it. However, you have to admit the color gives you more creative spark where they decided to draw the lines in. Because listen, when I see this stripe number, I'm like, oh, I could try that. That looks cool. Whereas this one, I'm like, oh, what would I use? What would I do? So like, I really appreciate that when they did the reissue of this, that they actually added in the color and the style, so you could have a bit more of an idea. You could spark those creativity bubbles a little faster than with your standard black and white with no lines. Now we have New York 1283 in a bust 34, which at first glance you might be like, huh, isn't that like 1277? Almost, because I did. The big difference here is that this yoke, it's a little hard to see, but you can see it's a T-shaped yoke with little gathered panels along the side. And it is a back yoke, and there is none of that paneling in the front for the accent panel. But it's still very pretty shirtwaist dress. We'll find a lovely new home. Now we have New York 1284, which, while it doesn't say so on the back, you can definitely tell by the front this was supposed to be a sports ensemble, an exercise ensemble. Why? Because she's holding a tennis racket. It's the only reason she can show that much skin, there's a tennis racket involved. So you can see here, not only is it the slimline skirt, you have the shorts, which are very high-waisted, and then you do have a button-up shirt as well. This one is only, though, in a bust 34. And now, you remember, we had this discussion of how much I love scallops, right? Do you love scallops too? That's great. New York 1291 in a bust 48. Yeah, she's got scallops. She is a surplice waist, scalloped collar dress. She has a slim skirt, but you can see here, she has this like capelet almost that all have scallops here along the back. And this very open front with a vestee for modesty, with a little bow on the side. What? Sheer dress woolen's fine. The new cloaky types in silks and acetate? What? For those of you that study the 30s, please tell me in the comments what in the heck that means, because I've never seen that before. Now, there are two things I love about this pattern. Number one, the smallest size I have is a bust 48. And number two, this, from what I can tell, is a one-piece dress. It is not supposed to be a wrap dress. However, changing it to be a wrap dress would be inordinately easy, because I do believe that for New York 1538, you can take this panel front here. You can see where there's a side skirt on either side. It says that the closure is in the underarm seam on the left side. So that means that there's some type of closure over here that's like a zip or a button or a, snap placket, whatever. You could probably take that away and change this to be just a wrap dress. It does have a back belt, but you could, it's very small. It's like a little attachment in the back. You could easily make ties instead. But I love this because it's a bust 48, a bust 50 in color, and a bust 52. So to all of my plus size baddies out there, I give you patterns. Real 1930s patterns that you can make without having to scale up super large. And for those of you that are larger than a 52, I'm sorry, that is actually what they stopped at. Like, I legitimately have the largest size at the time. So for that, I do apologize. So you will still have to scale some, but at least you're starting from a much better place than like a 32. So good. And speaking of larger size patterns, New York 1539 is next in a bust 40 and 42. It has that same similar very large collar with this little inset vestee with a slimline skirt. Although this one does have a kind of cool sleeve happening down here at the bottom, or you could do an elbow length sleeve. You can see here that this is how the long sleeve is sort of gathered into itself around the wrist. So it's not an extra cuff in that moment, but it's just part of the sleeve. Also, no, we didn't get to actually find any hat patterns. Yes, I was supremely bummed. And now circling fully back around into the land of giant bows with New York 1541 in a bust 36. This is a slimline dress with that paneled front look. But if you look closely here, these are not going to be just like one panel piece because the bodice is slightly larger than the skirt. But you can see here, the bow is no quitter. That is literally shoulder to shoulder, potentially buttoned on. Unknown, actually, if that's a button on or if it's just loose with a button accent over top. To probably hold its structure and keep it perky. But I do love this. Also, the sleeves are interesting because they have almost a little mini extra bow down at the bottom. Now we have another little lovely child's dress. This is a two-piece dress with raglan flutter sleeves, like a wide, thin bow for New York 1559, and a 3-panel gored skirt in the front with a single panel in the back. This is in a size 10 and a size 14. Boa-palooza continues with New York 1565. This is in a bust 36 and a 38. And you can see here, not only is there a bow tie waist belt, there are also little bow ties right here at the bottom of the square high neckline that apparently are functional, and you can like somehow put the bolero through the bow. So there must be a little hole there that you stitch in so that you can like feed it through, so you're not having to deal with your bolero all the time. I do kind of enjoy that. This one, however, is going to be a center back button from the manufacturer, but again, that's something you can pretty easily change into being a side zip or a center back zip, should you prefer that. Speaking of button on boleros, we have New York of 1568, which is, yes indeed, another bolero that buttons directly onto the dress. Listen, we love to see it. We love to not be shuffling around. My little black bolero, while I love it, Lord, I have to adjust that thing all the time. But the thing about this dress that is very interesting, not only do you have, which is hard to see because they drew a belt over top of it, you can see the pointed raised waist. But look at the back of that dress. Ooh, she's sassy. And then the bolero actually has these like, they're not really scallops. It's just like a little pointed detail along this yoke with a like straight line bottom of the bolero. Now we have New York 1570 in a bust 40, which is another like sort of like could be a tuxedo dress, could be just a general shirtwaist dress, but it does have that sort of scoop placket that you would have seen in men's tuxedo dresses. But I do like here how even though it's black and white, they gave you that same idea with the stripes of one going perpendicular, right? Yes, perpendicular, the other one going horizontal. Now we have New York 1581 in a bust 40 as well. This is a shirtwaist style still because technically the buttons don't run all the way down the front. It stops just below the waist and then goes into a solid placket. This just means that that's probably the only closure that you have because you're opening up the thinnest part of the dress, which is the waist. So that way you can just easily button it on. And now, listen, if you're still here, you are a committed pattern nerd, and I give you a giant round of applause because your wait is going to have paid off. Because there are things that I have seen once or twice on Etsy, no big deal. And there are things that I have only ever seen in a catalog. And that's usually because they would get used. And we talked about this earlier where, they just get disintegrated because they're gone. Or they're hiding away in someone's personal collection, which will, I'm assuming at some point, either get donated to a museum or just get put back into circulation. However, when you find something that is rare like that, you think, oh, this is a fluke, we've only found one. And then you find 3 each, so there were 6 of these total, just floored, literally floored, like both Judy and I could not believe it. I give you the New York Hollywood Starlet line patterns. Now that's not like a title. You can't search for that on Google. Don't go searching for that. No one will know what you mean. This is a line of patterns that was made in the 30s. I'm unsure of exactly when it started because, again, I can't stress this enough. I've never held one of these in my actual hot little hands. Never. This is New York 906. With what I love is they did not get the rights from the movie theaters or the movie producers to announce what movie this was. So this is Anita Louise reproduced from Romantic Movie Stories. Because they couldn't get the actual rights to the title of the movie. But I just love that there's still some of these hiding in the wild that people can take and actually make them into garments. Oh, it is a beautiful one-piece dress with the very classic 1930s slimline skirt. And then this bodice has these like flat line bows and the collar is sort of extra and rounded on the bottom. It's just so good. And next up we have New York 914, which is another Anita Louise. This is actually more of a shirtwaist dress because you do have the button from the neck all the way down through to about just below the hip with a sort of pocket with a little extra trim along the side. There's no yoke to the back, so it's just one piece across. But this is just, it's from a movie classic. It's a classic dress. Now, the reason I say this is because there are some that are just interesting, and I love the fact that they're attached to a movie star somehow, some way. And then there's New York 916, which I just love the lines of. This is a Jane Wyatt dress from Motion Picture Magazine, which is a real magazine, but look at the detail on this. Not only do you have a triangular pocket, you've got all these pleats along the front. You have this draped kind of shawl bow collar up here. And then you also have the same drop shoulder, but the pleats are actually set in, and then there's a regular sleeve below that. But like, look at how good it is. It's so pretty. It is a bust 34. I'm so sorry. I have not said any of these. These are all pretty. These are all on the smaller side. But like, it's so lovely. And then you have the lovely face of Miss Jane Wyatt hanging out down here on the bottom with us. But it's stunning, just stunning. And speaking of stunning, I have saved the absolute best pattern in this entire lot that I got to keep for last. I give you New York 685. This is literally described as beach ensemble. So you have a halter top, you have these beautiful high-waisted shorts with a slightly raised waistband, and I think a little tie bow there along the side, as well as this gorgeous beach robe to go along with it. It's just stunning. It's just stunning. And like, look at her wind-blown hair. She must be on a boat, because otherwise that would be like hurricane force winds. I just can't stress enough how rare something that is factory folded, like perfect factory folded is. And that is all the patterns that I have found, but now the little maybe pile, which isn't really a maybe pile. This one is the one I'm keeping. That's just where it's at. I am keeping New York 711, and I will be putting up for sale New York 115, which is this magical blouse pattern. And I do truly hope that you have enjoyed today's video. And knowing me and my ramblings, the patterns probably are already live at this point, or will be shortly, because they went live an hour from the launch of this video. So go check out backroomfinds.com and take home any of the ones that you saw today, except for the 2 that I said I was keeping. And until next time, friends, I hope that you are sewing in chaos, and thank you for helping support my small business just a little bit at a time. Bye. I'm so excited, I'm tumbling over my words. Fumbling, stumbling, one of those things. But I'm gonna cut my own head off. Ah! And now while I did speed up this fabric, and now while I did speed up this footage,